Hi, this is Jason Romero coming to you from Denver, Colorado, United States of America. Thank you to iHorizon for having me share with y'all in Pakistan.
All right, so how about you tell us about yourself, you and your family?
I have three children. My daughter Sierra, who's 20, my son Sage, who's 19, my youngest daughter Sophia, who is 14. Uh, my story is that I have a degenerative eye condition called retinitis pigmentosa. I was diagnosed when I was 14 years old, and I was told that I would have no light perception and I would be lights out blind by the time I was 30. I am now 50, and I actually do still have eyesight, and I have a 15-degree tunnel I see through, and my visual acuity is 2200, 2400, meaning I have to be super close to something in order to really see it. I see light and dark. I see colors. I think I see fairly sharp, crisp. Very difficult for me to read at this point in time. I do use computer magnification a lot in order to be able to see. I don't drive anymore. My background professionally is that I was a lawyer for probably 5 or 6 years. It was pretty difficult to get through school and law school, and I used a lot of magnification, a lot of lighting to be able to do the reading. It was not audiobooks at that time. After being a lawyer, I went on to a business career, 10 years with General Electric. I ran GE Capital in the Caribbean. I worked for Western Union, was the VP of Global Operations and the CEO of a nonprofit that helps children with autism. So I've been able to have a fairly successful career and varied career, but my eye disease was always with me. And I always had shame about my eye disease. I never told other people about it. And about 6 years ago, I came to a crossroads where I couldn't hide my eye disease anymore from myself or from other people. I had to stop driving. I had major changes and transformation that was happening in my life. I went into a major depression. I was divorced, unemployed, severely depressed, and I had a calling. Calling was to run across America for the next 18 months. I figured out how to do it, trained my body, and eventually did do that. I logged a top 10 fastest crossing, 83 kilometers a day. And it was about 5,000 kilometers across America. And it's the first and only by a blind person. And currently, I am a motivational speaker.
We must fail in order to succeed. If you are not failing, you are not trying hard enough, or your dreams are not big enough. Epic dreams require epic failures, and many failures.
And an author. And that really grew out of being, out of running across America, and as a result of my eye disease. My eye disease has been a struggle for all of my life, and it's caused me a lot of pain, a lot of grief. I've had to grow a lot. I've had a lot of anger. I've had a lot of sadness. I've had a lot of uncertainty, just with the prospect of losing eyesight, how things are going to look, always constantly having to make adaptations for how to live. And then I lose more eyesight, then I have to make more adaptations, then I lose more eyesight, then I have to make more adaptations. And it's been really confusing for people who live with me and who are around me, like my kids and my family, because I seem like I can do something just fine without a lot of help, and then I lose more eyesight, and my kids don't really notice that, or my family or people around me, but then all of a sudden I struggle and I have to make this adaptation. And it's a very emotional process. I've been told by some people who have the same type of eye disease as me is, the most difficult part is the process of going blind. Once you actually arrive and you see absolutely nothing anymore, it gets so much easier because it's like one last final adaptation and then you're there. So what I've learned as a result of this journey is a lot of failure, resilience, and then picking yourself back up and succeeding, and then you do it all over again.
We also want to know why raising awareness about visual impairment is important and necessary.
There's so many people out there that have eyesight issues, visual impairment, blindness. A lot of times it's not obvious to the public, and it's almost like with any other hidden disability. There could be a person walking around with cancer or with any other type of challenge that's not obvious. With respect to visual impairments, I think it's really important because the sense of sight is something that a lot of people are very concerned to lose or have impacted. And a lot of people think, if I can't see, I can't do anything. Well, for those of us who are visually impaired and blind, we know we can do everything and anything. We just do it differently. So it's really important, I think, for us to get out there. The thing that I would like to see is a lot more of my visually impaired and blind peers out in the community all the time. Like, very rarely do I see people tapping around with their cane. And I'm not sure if that's the case in other parts of the world, but definitely in America, you don't see a lot of blind people. Not until probably like 6 years ago, until I identified myself as being blind, legally blind, and came out of the closet and started telling everybody about my blindness, did I actually know and make blind friends. So I think it's super important, because it's like with anything else. We all struggle with something. And when we create awareness about that, we're able to see that there really is nothing that holds anybody back. And the other thing that we realize too is that we all have an opportunity to help another person who may be struggling. And we all have struggles where we need to ask for help from others to help us through our struggles.
Were educational and work settings inclusive for you or not?
Let me start with the educational settings. The school system, when I was going to school, primary, secondary, or university, or graduate school, I never asked for accommodations. I believe that they would have made an attempt to be accommodating, although I never really asked for inclusivity. I did receive some support when I was taking standardized tests, because with my eyes, I needed to bring in magnification, extra lighting, that type of thing, and that was permitted. So that was good. That felt good. How I ended up getting through school, though, was really with my own adaptation. So I was able to see some at that point in time. And what I used were half-glass readers, magnifying glass, and then a lot of lamps. And I basically taught myself to learn out of books. I could never see what was on the whiteboard or examples, that type of thing. I could hear in class, but I couldn't tell what was going on. And I wouldn't tell anybody about my visual impairment. So I really bore that on my shoulders. In the work environments, it's about half and half. I think employers start out trying to be inclusive. That was my experience. At General Electric in particular, they were extremely inclusive and understanding, to the extent that I told them what was going on. Like I said, I had a tremendous amount of shame and I felt embarrassed. I was concerned that I wouldn't get the opportunity to move on in the company, get promotions, because a company, what would you think? How can a blind person do that? And maybe that was my own individual thinking I was projecting onto the company. But GE was very inclusive. And then after that, I had a couple other employers where I definitely bumped into some situations where there was not inclusivity. And I felt discrimination is a strong word, but I felt treated differently because of my visual impairment, my challenges in certain aspects. I mean, it was something that came into play, and it should not have come into play. I think that does need to be addressed, and it was kind of interesting because what I had feared my whole life, actually, I ended up experiencing, and I wanted to pretend like it wouldn't happen. I'm an optimistic and idealistic type of person. I wish it wouldn't have happened, but the fact is, it does happen, and it doesn't always happen, so we shouldn't live in fear of it. But when it does happen, we need to stand up for ourselves and do the right thing. And sometimes doing the right thing, you're going to upset some people, and you may need to move on to a different job and different company, because you're not going to change a lot of other people. What you can do is you can try to educate them, and then it's going to be up to them whether they want to listen and change themselves.
And changing the subject a little bit, what are you doing these days in quarantine?
So I am happily with my roommate. Sierra, my oldest daughter. She's back from college. And what I've been doing is, personally, I've created a 60-part video series about my run across America trying to create positive content to put into this world. I just find that there's too much dark content, if you will, and I want light content. I want to help people to put goodness into their mind and heart. So I created a 60-part video series. The other thing that I did was I finished off the manuscript for my second book. It's called The Success Cycle. Working with an editor now and working to get that published. So hopefully that will be out later on in 2020.
What are some myths about visual impairments and your personal experiences related to them?
I think it's the same myth about any type of struggle. It's basically if a person is struggling, they do less or are capable of less. And that's just simply not the case. The fact is we all struggle with something. My particular cross to bear is I have a visual impairment. I have other stuff too. I also struggle and work through depression. And that doesn't make me any less than or less capable than anybody else. And everybody has struggles. Everybody has struggles, and we're all capable of absolutely amazing things. We just need to work with our struggles. The other thing that I found too is I really needed to learn to ask for help and put my pride and my ego aside and in check, because people want to help you. A lot of times it was just me holding myself back from asking for help. And I think that's a huge piece, but that's only half the equation, because after I'd asked for help, there's also another challenge to accept help when another person is offering it to you. So those are two really, really big, important things. Anybody with a visual impairment or blindness capable of doing absolutely anything and everything. Some people tell me, oh, you think you can fly an airplane? I was like, yeah, if that was my dream and I'm blind, I could figure out how to do it if I absolutely wanted to, and that was what I needed to do. What would I do? I'd go figure out how to get adaptations or robotics or technology or something, just basically to complement my loss of eyesight or augment that, and I would be able to do that. You can figure out anything. Anybody can do anything. But that's not the point of it. The point is that we are all capable of everything and anything. We all have struggles. We all adapt. We all need to ask for help and be able to accept help.
That's it. So it was great talking to you.